Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. My name is Eric Smyth. I'm the Director of Global Alliances at RTTS, which is the parent company of CoreySurge. I've been in the industry over 20 years in various different roles with RTTS. I started out as a consultant where I was implementing test automation for our customers. I ran the RTTS training division for over a decade, where I delivered courses around functional testing, test management, and for the last 6 years, I've been running the CoreySurge partner program, where I work with our partners like SQALogic on implementing training, pre-sales for anything to do with CoreySurge.
Hello, everyone. Albert Reyes here, pre-sales engineer for SQALogic. Those who know me, pretty much the technical right hand of the company. I offer any technical documentation, demos. I organize webinars with Quentin and team. I go on various discussions. I tour around Canada and the US to meet people to sort of promote proper quality assurance practices. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell, or at least what I do. 20 years of experience. I've been in IT, almost every single facet of it. So I'm very happy to be here today to join you guys.
So RTTS was founded in '96 by Bill Haydock, who's our CEO. We started as a pure play services organization that focused on software quality, specifically test automation. For those of old enough to remember, we were using tools like SQA Robot, Mercury Windrunner, CompuWare's Test Partner to implement functional testing, performance testing, test management solutions for our customers. One of our customers, we started doing some data testing for around 2008, maybe sometime around that time frame. And we were starting to use some of the functional tools. And what we found was some of them couldn't handle the large volume of data that we were dealing with. And we were running into some challenges with doing the testing. So we started developing utilities to assist in what needed to be done to test large volumes of data quickly. And that eventually became productized and turned into CoreySurge. And now what we're doing is, instead of being a pure services organization, we sell CoreySurge to customers through our partner channel. And we are doing services still, but mostly we're a software and services company now. So it's been a little bit of the evolution of RTTS and where we are today.
Well, SQALogic, we've been around for about 12 years. It was co-founded, and our current CTE, David Millett, he's been in the industry for over 25 years. Uh, Pretty much his entire career has been in software quality assurance. So um, that goes a long way when it comes to these types of uh, projects or mandates or anything of that sort that we have to do with our partners. We do emphasize on a solid foundation of software quality assurance practices, methodologies, and just overall product use. That being said, data validation is one of the core disciplines when it comes to that. So we're very happy to promote any such partnerships today. So the current difficulties that we're seeing today when it comes to merging these two disciplines, so software quality assurance and data validation, would be the complexity of the fields, adding new technologies, adding more target source data sources, having these large infrastructures, and also the pressure from higher management to have that faster time to market. So basically, that's causing sort of slowdowns in terms of releases, which in turn, if you deliver releases quicker without having proper testing, be it data validation testing or just software quality assurance testing, that's leading to a alarmingly increasing amount of errors when releases come to be delivered, right? When it comes time to deliver these projects.
Yeah, I totally agree, Albert. What I would ask you is, what are some of the most difficult challenges that you see when implementing quality assurance? I mean, customers know they need it, but they don't always know the best way to implement it. What are you seeing? What are some of those challenges that they need to overcome?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good question. What we've been seeing a lot lately, and I say lately, but this has been for a few years now, it's it boils down to budget. Whether it's a lack there of funding for these projects, be it the lack of understanding of the scope of the impact that not doing these types of testings will have on production. Those are the major issues that we're seeing in recurring companies. RTTS and SQALogic started this journey about I would say a few years back, and it's very important to have a proper test data validation practice or discipline under your belt when it comes to software quality assurance. So we do really rely and work together with our partners to be able to deliver projects to customers, because it'll never be the same. So we definitely do rely and appreciate the assistance that we get.
Yeah, and SQALogic has been a great partner with RTTS and Query Surge. Obviously, their presence in Canada is excellent and provides boots on the ground and can have direct interaction with customers. And as we were preparing for this webinar, Albert, I think we hit a little bit of a milestone.
Yes, we have. I believe we hit our 5-year anniversary this month, working together and with a partnership. Can't ask for better.
Yeah, and me and Albert have kind of been together during that whole time. So we've worked a lot over the years on, various different projects, and it's been a great relationship.
A lot of battle scars, yes.
Yeah, so Query Surge is the solution that RTTS developed specifically to automate data testing. It's been around for about 10 years now, and it's evolved over time to pretty much touch all different facets of data testing, whether it's data migration projects, data warehouse projects, BI testing. One of those strengths of Query Surge is the ability to test the data no matter where it is. I can touch that data, validate it in a quick way, and the performance of doing large data testing and being able to automate that is one of the things that separates Query Surge from some of the competition out there, and where it really adds value to the customers. Some of the key benefits are the ability to test large volumes of data quickly. What we typically see from customers who may be doing their testing manually is they're struggling with the same types of challenges, where the volume of data that they have to test is getting to a point where they just can't do it anymore. They try to sample where they test a fraction of the data that needs to be done, but obviously there's a lot of risk there because there's areas that they may not be able to test. If their sample isn't wide enough, it produces risk and can generate defects into the system. So the ability for Query Surge to be able to test, in some cases, 100% of the data as organizations consume it is a real benefit. Query Surge allows you to put data quality checks in place to avoid data corruptions, and then you're able to integrate Query Surge as part of your data pipelines so that tests can be executed on demand when needed, can validate the data as the data is consumed and pulled into the data architecture, and can provide customers instant feedback to when there are data issues, what those data issues are, and allow them to resolve them quicker. So just with traditional automation tools, if you're familiar with it for functional testing and performance testing, what you're doing is you're building this test bed of automation scripts focused on data, put into your data pipelines, and can really improve the data quality overall. And as Albert was talking about earlier, the budget constraints, when you're implementing something like Query Surge, you're going to get the return on your investment. You're going to save time. You're going to save money down the road once you have these tests in place.
Which I believe we're going to talk a little bit later on the ROI and exactly what people can expect on the investment that they're putting into these type of softwares or this type of practice. And touching on the benefits, Eric, what would you say are the most impactful or the core benefits that Query Surge could offer to a software quality assurance practice?
I think just the ability to be able to test more data faster, more accurately, improving the data quality overall. Some of the things I touched on a little bit earlier. And I think the other thing really it provides is traceability, specifically for organizations who need audit trails on what tests were done for highly regulated organizations. Query Surge keeps a repository of all the tests that have been executed. So it's very easy to go back and say, and prove what was tested, when it was tested, to draw comparisons to, what type of data issues you were encountering last month to what type of data issues you're encountering now, and do those comparisons. So I think those are some of the core benefits.
Yeah. Though that's definitely where we've been seeing significant return or positivity on from customers using this technology. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about the integrations. And I believe through an ETL process, there's a lot of tools out there, but what really makes query search stand out?
So a lot of times we get asked, how does query search integrate with ETL tools? Because obviously the ETL tools are the ones that are moving data from one system to another. And we kind of work in conjunction with them. We don't have a direct integration with an ETL product, but what we do is we connect to the data sets that the ETL tools are working with. So as an ETL tool may be taking multiple source data files and then moving it into a target system, what query search does is after the ETL tool does its job, query search will execute a test. We'll compare that initial source data and then compare it to what was in the target to make sure that the ETL job that executed was successful. So we kind of work in conjunction and are just another piece of the data pipeline that's being executed. Many times when we are integrated with solutions, it could be a orchestration tool, whether that be
Mhm.
Azure DevOps or Jenkins or Airflow, or just some of the ones that we commonly see. And those will orchestrate the process where they'll kick off a job which maybe moves data from one system to another. And then the second step to that would be, okay, now run the query search test to validate that that job was successful. We'll also see integration points with test management solutions. So what customers want to see is, okay, after the query search tests ran, can you update the test cases that reside in those test management products to say, okay, if the query search test passed, we can mark that test case as a pass. And if there were, query search tests that failed, to then associate those with the test management test cases. So this way they can use the reporting in those solutions to get their holistic view of their overall software quality and include data testing as part of that.
Yeah, got a perfect example for that coming up as well. Oh, this is one of the interesting ones. This is really sort of discussion track that is gonna maybe resonate with our viewers today. It's the use cases, right? How data validation and how they can integrate it. What are the types of ROIs? What are the benefits of having these two disciplines merged together? I know it's more of an afterthought at the moment. A lot of people have these two segregated. Um, as in two different practices internally. So would you have any examples or any use cases to tell us today?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do here is just provide a few examples of things we've done with customers for some of these use cases. So for a data migration example, we worked with a pretty large UK bank, and they were doing a data modernization project. And what they were doing is they were moving data from a mainframe system into the Amazon Web Services Athena platform. And in addition to that, they also have all these additional source files that were previously being sent to the mainframe, which are now going to be put into S3 buckets in AWS and then processed into Athena eventually. So we used Query Search to assist with this process by being able to take the information off of the mainframe, which was in an acidic format, which is kind of a mainframe specific
Mhm.
format, process this to convert it into ASCII files, which was something that Query Search could easily consume. And then we were able to take that data and compare it to the data that was eventually pushed upstream into the Athena platform. So not only did we do it for this large migration project where they had to take all their historical data and move it into that system, but also for over 100 different data sources that were coming in different files that were now going to be in S3. We were able to compare that data and make sure that it was loaded correctly into Athena. And they were done in parallel because obviously the production system was still running. We were doing the testing and kind of running them and doing the comparisons to make sure that the data was being processed correctly so that they could eventually do the turnover. So I think that was an excellent example where Query Search added value for a data migration project, which would have been almost impossible to do manually. There was just too much data to handle, too many different data sources, and Query Search really helped that customer scale. For a data integration example, we had another customer, a financial institution, which was using Query Search to handle some data quality issues that they were having. They were constantly getting data sources or data feeds from their customers, and those data feeds were being pushed into their ERP system, and they were running into corruption issues. Because the data that they were consuming from the customers was improperly formatted, had some bad data sets, and it was causing a lot of problems and corruption issues into that ERP environment. So what this particular customer did is they put a lot of data quality checks up front on the source data that they were receiving for their customers. About 150 to 200 tests that they were running against each source file that came in. And until that was a clean bill of health and that source data was checked properly, it never got sent into the ERP system. So using query search for that type of process, they were able to completely eliminate all the data corruption issues that they were encountering in their ERP environment. So it was a huge value add. And that was just one particular use case that they were implementing query search for this particular customer. And then the last example here, data warehouse testing. We have a customer who deals with the construction of farming equipment. You wouldn't think
Hmm.
farming equipment, what are they doing with data? But what they do is pretty much all of their parts on these large tractors and other devices that they sell are all IoT devices. And they're constantly sending information back to the parent company about the overall health of the part, when it needs service, if it's throwing any type of error codes. So this organization has a huge data warehouse project where they're consuming all of this data constantly on a daily basis, processing it into their data warehouses and data marts so that they're able to generate business intelligence reports to say, what's the average life of this particular part? How often does it need service? What type of warranty should we put on it? And the data warehouses they were dealing with were, sometimes billions of records that they're consuming on a regular basis. And, for that type of volume, you're going to need a solution in place to be able to test all that, make sure that the data is in a good place. And obviously they're using query search for that. And that's one of my favorite customer stories, because if a company that's building farming equipment is consuming lots of data, it's not one that would typically kind of draw your attention. Like, oh, what are they doing with data? But it just kind of puts a spotlight that no matter what industry customers are in, they're consuming data, whether it's from social media feeds, whether it's from customer feedback, and they're all kind of dealing with the same challenges, which is we're getting all this data. It's coming from all these different places. It's increasing every day. How are we going to test this and make sure that we're making sense of this data? And I think it just illustrates the importance of the automation piece that needs to be put in place.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, especially with the evolution of technology in general. The farming industry is really taking a sort of left turn, if you want, towards technology and embedding either self-driving trucks or IoT devices. The data that comes out of this is sometimes astounding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Albert, you had a specific use case that you wanted to talk about, or one of our joint customers where we
Yes.
did some work with.
Actually, one of our very important customers in Montreal, they had a project where they were trying to consolidate or create a consolidated report from 17 target applications. And through several efforts, I believe they were just getting a lot of corruption or data errors when trying to consolidate the data. So they approached us. They were asking if we could assist them in putting something together to to actually accomplish this report, right? To be able to produce a unified report. From there, of course, it was a no-brainer. We pretty much seeked out our partners. This was early on in the partnership, but we had very, very good trust in the solution. Ourselves, our techs, they were pretty much certified and they went through the training, so they understood the technology. And when we put it into place, they managed to actually create a successful test bed, and from that test bed, produce further tests during the duration of the project, ultimately leading to a successful report being created and constantly generated afterwards. So yeah, of course, that was our major win with query search here in Montreal, whereas there's been other ones, but that's the most significant one.
And Albert, how did they come to approach you with the problem? Specifically, is it something that you've had a strong relationship with them already and they just know to come to you with quality issues? And when this data
Mhm.
issue came up, that was an obvious fit, or did it kind of have a genesis of some other sort?
No, it was pretty much through the relationship that we had with the customer. We've been a longstanding partner or solution provider for this customer. So once they approached us or once we got wind of it, we definitely threw our hats in there that we were able to produce or find a solution. Seeing that SQALogic, we're very, very crafty when it comes to building a customized solution for customers. This was just one of those examples.
And I have a question. How did the customer like decided to go with query research? How did they went to the point where they say, okay, we need to work with this solution with query research?
The actual trigger or what
Yeah.
led it to them. Well, of course, like any other product implementation, you have to go through the ringer, right? So you have to go through the whole process of evaluating the product, making sure that it meets your criteria, that it's the right tool for the project that you're working on. And yeah, pretty much query search met all the criteria, got all the check marks, and that's how it was adopted.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the ability of SQALogic to be able to showcase what query search can do, be able to show that it can address the certain pain points that the customer is having, and their expertise around the solution, gave the customer trust enough to say, hey, this is what we need to do to move forward.
So speaking of the why query search, here's a slide that I think will prove our point. Eric, do you want to talk a little
Oh
bit?
yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, with any type of test automation project, there's an initial investment made in the solution up front. And the idea is to be able to invest in that solution, invest in the people who are going to be working on that solution to be able to save money over time. I think this slide is just a good illustration of that. This was taken off one of the use cases from one of our customers where you're able to continually to reuse your automation, execute your tests over time, and the cost of executing a test once it's been developed in an automation solution, as is drastically less than if you were going to have to do that manually. ROI calculations are a lot of times difficult with data tests because what we see is if you have, hundreds of millions of records that are going to be tested, typically, if they're not going to use automation to do that, they're just not going to test all that data. So they're going to test a fraction of it. So it's not always an apples to apples comparison, but what you're doing is you're testing more better in less time than you would manually, and you're eliminating a lot of that risk. So of course, that's a huge part of the ROI calculation that doesn't always get factored in. But obviously, the more features we put in the tool to make it easier for customers to implement query search and be able to utilize it and get stuff out of it, it just increases that ROI over time. And like I said, this is a great example of it.
And would you say that that's how query search comes to accomplish that ROI or comes to realize it?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think part of it is you're going to save time on the test execution, but the other part of it is if you actually map out, if I did this manually, how much time and how many resources would it have taken to do the same work? That's where you'll see a significant ROI, and that's where some of these numbers come from.
Okay. And I see a mention of AI here in the green column. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. So here you can see the benefits of data validation.
Yeah, not much to say here, Quentin. The numbers are the numbers, pretty much. These were pulled straight from Gardner, and I believe the second one would have been, if I can see, another leader in the industry. But these were actual articles that were online, that were produced and showing the benefits of having your software quality assurance practice merged in or work more in tangent with a data validation discipline, right? Yeah, this one.
Talk about AI.
Yeah, I think, Albert, this is a huge topic that's coming up all the time now that we hear customers talking about. I'd be interested to hear, what you're hearing from customers and what they're asking about.
Well, of course, AI is the buzzword, right? It's what we're hearing out in the industry. That's what a lot of these vendors are aiming to implement in their tools. Personally, if I would just leave you guys with a simple quote on this, due to restrictions of time, I personally believe that AI represents not just the tool. It is a, how can we say, a revolution when it comes to software quality assurance or data validation. It definitely does bring something new. It has the ability to adapt, to learn, and to also evolve over time, and promises to revolutionize how it ensures the customer's data integrity and also the quality of their data. So it's something to look forward to. Of course, it's not going to eliminate jobs, but it's going to mainly refocus where priorities are for for organizations and companies.
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to ask. Is we hear everywhere that it's gonna like one of the consequences of AI is the lack of job, less job for people. You would say it's not true, and it will actually help create new job.
Well, it's an evolution, right? So it's not that it'll remove jobs. Basically, jobs as we know them today are going to cease to exist, and they're going to create new job titles and new roles that will be taking their place. So it's not going to be like a complete you're going to lose your job. It's going to be more of it's going to evolve, and that's how I see things as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we've implemented an AI component into query search. We believe we addressed kind of a pain point that customers are having around test design.
Mhm.
Maybe a little teaser, something we might be able to talk about in some depth in a future webinar. But we have an AI component of query search that we've added that we think has, based on customer feedback, has really hit the nail on the head, and we're constantly looking to expand and say, where can we leverage this to improve our product and to increase its productivity to get more out of it? Because as mentioned, it's coming. I think organizations are
It's
just
here.
trying to figure out the best way to implement it, the best way to utilize it, and we're doing that around query search as well.
And quickly, to take 30 seconds, how are you using or leveraging AI today, if any?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're addressing a specific pain point, which is the test design piece, developing the SQL that's needed for um, data testing is a time-consuming process. So what we're doing is
Yep.
we're taking requirements and leveraging AI to help build the SQL that's needed for those tests. So it's addresses something that could take hours, can now be done in minutes, and really speeds up the overall testing cycle.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, I've already started to look into the AI features, and they're going to be great.
And speaking about this feature, people can ask for a demo. You will have the link, as you can see on my screen, on the deck I'm gonna send to the audience. SQALogic is also offering a free maturity assessment. You will work with Albert and I, and we will go through your practice and I don't know, maybe recommend query search to you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thank you,
nice day.
everyone. Take care.